So what is going around now is a list of supply clergy that are available in our diocese. Just so you know, this list is self-reported. That means that all of the clergy who say that they want to be supply have to tell us that they want to be supply, and the bishop has to approve that, correct? And any changes or updates in their availability or their how far they can travel, that sort of thing, they have to let us know about that. So this is everything that we have as up to date as we have for that for supply clergy. So when you need supply clergy, this is the list that you'll go through. If you look up at the top, it has those supply rates that Dwight mentioned. For a single service, it's $200. And I sort of feel like a salesperson when I'm talking about this, but this includes leading the worship and celebrating Eucharist and a sermon. If you have an additional service, let's say you have 2 services, that rate becomes $250. If you have 3 services, talk to them about it and y'all can negotiate a rate for that. Also, you'll want to include mileage in that. And the mileage is 67 cents a mile, and that's the IRS rate for that. Sometimes you may have people say, oh, no, you don't have to pay me for that. You got to pay them for that. Even you need to get in the habit of writing that check. And then what they do with that check after that, y'all can't control. But be sure that you're getting in the habit of doing that so you can budget out for when you need supply clergy. Because you don't want to just assume clergy's going to be free or only limit yourself to people who are going to do services for free. So get in the habit of writing that check for us. Like I said, this list gets updated from time to time, and because I was trying to print it on one sheet, that print is super tiny. So you may want to be able to access a more updated list as months go by, or see it in bigger print. I'm going to show you how to do that. If you go to our diocesan website, everybody got the Dio website, diocgc.org. All right, you're going to go over here to the Resource Center, and you can scroll down. You go to Clergy Sources or Congregational Resources. Congregational Resources has more of what we're looking for. All right, so you go in there and you can scroll down, and you will find Directories. You go under there, and it's Supply Clergy, and it pulls it right up, and all that information is right there for you. So let's say you're getting ready to call folks. A lot of times just the people at the top of the list get called, and then if you can't find somebody who meets your date, then folks give up and say, oh, I couldn't find any supply clergy. Y'all be sure to look down in some of these names. I want to highlight a few folks for y'all who have shown up and said, hey, I would like to supply some. So I want to share those names with you. These are folks who showed up to a supply gathering that we had, but Judith Comer from Daphne had mentioned she would like to get out some. Thomas Hurd, Mary Alice Matheson, and Keith Talbert are all folks. Also, I like to supply, so call me sometime. And then...
But...
I'm so much fun.
I want to explain something because I do get this question sometimes. Ashley, Joy, and Lydia are on the diocesan staff, so they work for me. There are times that I will say to them, I want you to go to St. Monica's Cantonment because something's going on and I think we need to be there. I just pulled that out, right? If they go because I'm asking them to go, you do not have to pay them supply rate or travel. That's the question I get. If you call one of them and say, hey, will you supply for us, you should pay them just like you would pay any other supply priest. Mm-hmm. And just know this, there are some times when I will say to Lydia, you've been working too much on Sundays, I want you to say no. Mm-hmm. That's not just Lydia, sometimes I'll say it with Ashley or Joy. So just know that the 3 of them are in a little bit of a different area. I want them to get out. And specifically, Lydia especially. If you really want to jumpstart some ministry in your church and know how to do that, she would be the one to have come talk to your and supply and do a forum, that kind of thing.
Okay, we'll do a workshop. Look, but this is great, particularly for folks who don't have clergy or, oh, sorry.
And another piece to keep in mind with the three of us, but especially with me, is that if we agree to supply for you and something comes up in the life of the diocese that is diocesan role related, like, hey, actually I need you here because this thing has happened, there's always an outside chance that I've agreed to supply for you, and a week before I supply, I call you and say, I can't be with you because I got this other thing I got to go do. And it's not because I'm not.
Usually that's an emergency.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened a few times, so I just like to make sure everybody knows that.
Yes, I would say, and also like with me to come supply, I would rather come to you as a diocesan representative, and let's do a workshop after, and let's forget the supply fee on that, and let's do some work together, okay? All right, but that's neither here nor there. So that's how you find supply clergy in the diocese, is through that list. You might not necessarily need clergy for your service. Maybe you want to do morning prayer. You can use the licensed lay ministers. We have a lay ministry directory, and we'll show you how to find that as well. Oh dear.
You can touch the screen too.
I don't know if that's going to help me. How do I get it back? What have I done?
You can't see.
Here, we'll click on this. This seems reliable.
Yeah.
All right, so you're back to the CGC website. You're going to come over here to Resource Centers again. Come down to Congregational Resources. You scroll down. And then the directories, you've got the lay leaders directory. And there it is, right there for you. If you look for in the, goodness gracious, Grammarly. Look in that sort of red purpley column, the WL, if it's got an X in there, those are your licensed lay worship leaders. Those folks do a really, really great job of doing a lay-led worship service, and these are also the friends who can do communion under special circumstances. So that's who you'll contact for that. Let's say you just want somebody to come preach, and you've got folks who can do leading morning prayer. We also have in the green preachers right there. So you can contact those folks as well. It's a little bit fluid on how like rates to be charged, things like that. You're definitely going to want to pay these friends mileage if they're traveling. And then $100 is sort of the rate that I've heard that folks are giving to them as an offering for pouring in to your service. Okay, 3 minutes. Do you want me to talk about rhythm or no?
Yeah, I do, but I would say this. The other option is to raise up people to go to the training so that you have worship leaders and preachers in your congregation. So that would be the more long-term solution to this type of issue. And that's more of a team approach.
Yeah, and the other thing with that is, like, let's say you've got folks who you think, oh man, we should raise them up as licensed like worship leaders. We would love to have that. Schedule worship leader to come and let them experience what that's like to see somebody who's been raised up to do that, and then schedule a time maybe to see if they can all sit down and talk and learn a little bit more about that. That could be a lot of fun and a really good way to grow together and to encourage one another in your gifts and ministries.
I would add, Brother Lydia, that's a great asset to have as a church. We've got quite a few at Good Shepherd, and believe me, it was a godsend when we didn't have a priest. Okay, so when there were times when I couldn't get a supply priest, the worship leaders and getting them to go through the service and everything, that was a great asset to help walk us all through as lay people. So that was good.
Thank you. All right. And so, again, if you want to see, when we're talking about communion under special circumstances, we're going to come here to the Resource Center, Congregational Resources, scroll down, communion under special circumstances. There's this letter here from Bishop Kendrick. If you click on it, it explains everything, and then it's got a rubric for using, and also this online form. Bishop, do you still want them to fill out the online form before doing?
It's a new situation, yeah. This is kind of fluid. The main thing we're trying to do is be intentional about the use of this liturgy, not overusing it, and us knowing how often it's being used. Again, I think I said early on, this is kind of cutting edge stuff in the church. Some bishops would say this is, you've crossed the chasm of what we should be doing. So I'm trying to be intentional about how we monitor it, the use of it in our diocese, and do so carefully. So if it's never been done before in your church, yes, fill that out.
I would say I like it because it's a really good planning tool. It makes you think about the things maybe you hadn't already thought about. Where is it going to come from? How is it going to get here? When are we going to plan for these things to happen? I think it's very helpful in that way. But if you look at this rubric, we're not going to go all the way through it, but I did just want to show for you here, if you're planning on, you would like to have communion under special circumstances, you've got to identify who is that licensed lay worship leader who will be officiating that service. And then also on here, the, where'd it go? Where it talks about the timing of it. And I'm afraid I've gone to the wrong spot. But what it says is this shouldn't take the place of your primary, it shouldn't be happening every Sunday. You don't want to lean on this for every Sunday. And so if you're looking to create sort of a rhythm of this, if you're looking to plan out a month, and this is mostly for our places who don't have clergy right now, consider a rhythm that looks like this. You'll have morning prayer maybe on the first Sunday, and then you would have maybe supply come in on the second, and then talk to us and to the bishop about it. You might have that supply consecrate that you could use later, but begin to look at the churches around you. Where, who's having a midweek service that could consecrate, like a midweek Eucharistic service that they could then intentionally consecrate to be used on Sunday. Also look at the places around you. Who has a Sunday service that's in the morning? Maybe they have an 8 o'clock service and you have a 10:30 service. See about partnering with them to do sacrament from reserve. So do like a morning prayer, then maybe have a supply priest, and then have another morning prayer. And then on that last one, let that be when you're bringing communion under, I keep going to call it sacrament from reserve still, but communion under special circumstances from a neighboring church. So I think that's a nice rhythm to do it that way. And then as far as like when you're doing your parish programming around that, sometimes I hear people say, nobody comes when it's morning prayer. So there's two ways to think about this. But one thing to do is maybe to get more people to come, have some of your parish programming on that morning prayer Sunday so that there's a draw. Our morning prayer service is beautiful. Give people an excuse to get up and come enjoy it and experience it. So anyway, you might have any questions? That's a super abbreviated version of that.